So to talk a little bit about the city of San Francisco, they have more than 800,000 residents that come up with a lot of different requests, everything from sidewalk repairs to campaign finance information. And so they adopted an open data policy in 2010. There's some legislation, I think, in the works that will make this mandatory for San Francisco and other cities, and potentially the state of California. But one of the challenges that the city of San Francisco had is that there were lots of different parts of the city of San Francisco, lots of different organizations and smaller agencies that had data in all these different silos and all these different formats. And so they were really challenged with how to help these other departments get this data into one central repository. So this is really where SAFE's FME product comes into it. So they thought, wouldn't it be great if we could just use the Socrata Open Data APIs to replace this data and automatically have it updated daily. So daily, kind of take this the San Francisco began using Safe Software's SME platform to help move that daily data automatically onto the Socrata platform. So Safe Software developed a writer specifically for loading the broad range of data files into Socrata, so eliminating the need for a unique connector to be written by, in this case, by the city of San Francisco. So the end result was really this significant time savings in terms of managing this data and getting into a central platform, improved transparency, and really just greater efficiency overall for the city. In fact, the city really talks about this now in terms of set it and forget it, which I think is kind of just a great little marketing tag. I mean, I think that kind of says it all in those 5 words. And so the end goal also for San Francisco is really just to keep their staff working on what is important. So the more that they can automate this process and the more that they can make this data available to the public, so the much better for providing better services for citizens, and again, allowing the city of San Francisco to focus on other more important issues. So with that, I think I'll kind of hand this back over to Laura, and so maybe going a step deeper and actually showing you guys a demonstration of how this works.
Okay, so with that, I'll just get into a brief demo here, just showing what the Socrata Writer in FME looks like. So here I've just got a workspace that I've prepared for this. Inside this workspace, I'm taking a source data set that's coming from an AutoCAD format. So this is just an AutoCAD data set with information about property boundaries. So I'll just show you what this data set looks like to begin with. So you can just see a whole bunch of polygons showing lots, and there's a set of attributes on them with information. I've got a coordinate for them and a site ID. So that's what I'm dealing with here. So I want to take this information and put it into Socrata. So just through my workflow here, I'll just show you what I'm doing. So I've got a tester transformer. So this is one of the transformation tools that we have in FME. So in here, I'm just using this to kind of validate some of the attributes coming in from my source data set. So I just want to make sure my coordinate attribute actually exists on some of the features, just to make sure my data set's clean and get rid of anything that's going to potentially cause a problem inside my workspace. The next one I have here is called a joiner transformer. And inside here, I'm taking the source data set that I have, so with the location information of all my land parcels, and I want to grab some additional information to add to this. So I want some information about the streets, maybe property values and all that. And that's stored inside another database. This is just another format that's supported by FME. So I'm taking it from a Postgres database, and so I'm joining on this P coordinate and the land coordinate fields. So this is coming from my input AutoCAD field, and this is a field from my Postgres database. And I'm going to grab a whole set of additional fields or columns that I'm going to add into Socrata later on. So it's taking this information from 2 separate formats and pulling it together into a single feature. And then I'm just going to write out to Socrata. So this is the Socrata Writer here. So I'll just open this up and show you the properties. So inside here, the feature type name, this is what defines the name of the table that I'm going to create when I write this out to Socrata. So you can see my writer here, opendata.socrata. Next, I've got a list of all the attributes or all the column names that I want to be adding or creating in this table when I do go to create it. I can select a different type for each of the columns. So we've got a list of all the supported column types here, so I can control exactly how these map. We've got calendar, dates, checkboxes, stars, text, URL, and all those. So this one's a number. So you can see I've got a few of them set out here. And then finally, on this last section for format parameters, I can control some of the properties of this table. So I want this data set to be published by FME, so I don't have to do that myself when I go into Socrata. I'm going to keep this as a private, and since I'm just creating this for the first time, I'm not going to be replacing an existing data set. And down here at the bottom, this is the name of the column that's going to store the geometry information that I'm writing out. So you can see in this case, I'm taking a set of lines or polygons that I'm going to be writing into Socrata, but by default, we'd only have only points would be supported inside my Socrata table. So FME is going to take my polygon information and automatically convert that into points for when it writes out to Socrata, so that this is all compatible and it all works and displays on the other side. So I'll just run this right now. I can show you the output. So inside here, actually, in my Socrata Writer, I can control exactly how I log in. So I can say the host that I'm writing out to, my username and password to connect into Socrata. And here in the background, it's just building up a table. So I've got a logger here. It's keeping track of some of the invalid features that I've got. And this is building up all the information. I'm going to send that out to Socrata. So it just takes a couple minutes. So it's transferring up to the site now. Should be done in a second. There we go. So you can see I've got about 6,000 features that were just written out to this brand new properties table in my Socrata account. I had 30 features that failed my tester, so these were invalid. So I'm going to have to deal with those in some other way, maybe manually later on. And so I'll just open up Socrata here, refresh the page, see if my table's in there. So you can see here, I've got this brand new table called properties with all the information I just wrote out from my two source data sets. So you've got my civic number and all the attributes in there, all with the correct column type. So you can see the money column type here. And at the very end, I've got the geometry, and these are just points at this, right here at this end. So you can see just a single coordinate corresponding to the location of each of the properties that I wrote out here.
So we do have a question that said it looked like you might have had some duplicates inside of your database there, or inside the Socrata. Could you have modified your workspace to test and make sure that you didn't provide duplicate?
Yeah, there's a whole set of transformers inside there. Yeah, I could use that to test for duplicate values and filter those out. I can modify some of the attribute values if I wanted to change them up or clean some of them up in there as well. So
right, but for the simplicity and the time constraints of this webinar, we're just showing a very high level data load, but there's lots of tools inside of FME to put appropriate business rules in place to do stuff like duplicates.